I've been getting lots of requests to do more cakes and cupcakes, so I thought I'll do some banana cupcakes with a browned butter icing for you guys. It's almost like banana bread. It's packed full of chocolate chips and some chunky walnuts, but it's topped with this luscious brown butter icing, which goes so well with this banana cupcake. Don't forget to watch till the end for some tips and tricks on how to perfectly ice these banana cupcakes. Now let me show you how I made these. Start by putting brown and white sugar into a large bowl. To this, add in salt, vanilla and some oil, and then finally crack in 2 large eggs straight into the bowl. Unlike most of the cakes, we don't need to add the eggs in gradually to this, but make sure to use room temperature eggs to help it mix better with the rest of the ingredients. And then start whisking everything together with a hand whisk. Once the ingredients are nicely combined, add in some Greek yogurt or curd and then whisk that in. Now as you're whisking this in, you will see the batter becoming nice and creamy. At this point, we can measure out our bananas. I'm using some very ripe bananas for this. These banana cupcakes are a great way to use up bananas that are overripe and you would otherwise end up throwing away. Measure out the bananas and then mash it up with a fork. Leave a few small chunks of banana, but mostly mash everything together, almost like baby food. Add the mashed bananas into the rest of the batter and then whisk this until everything is mixed through. Now we can sift the flour straight into the wet ingredients. To the flour, I'm adding baking powder, baking soda, and some cinnamon powder. The cinnamon powder is optional, but I find that it brings this beautiful warmth to your banana cupcakes. Plus, it goes so well with the nuttiness of that brown butter icing that we are topping this with. Now, while I'm sifting this flour in, can I please get you to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any of my easy recipes and food ideas, along with lots of baking tips and tricks that I have learned from running a bakery for over a decade. Thank you! Now gently fold the flour into the wet batter. Use a rubber spatula to do this. Keep folding the batter until about 95% of the flour is mixed in. And then we can add in the chocolate chips. Use a mix of dark and milk chips if you can. And then crush the walnuts straight into the batter. When you crush these in, you get nice uneven sized bits of walnut rippling through your batter. And then finally fold everything together until the chocolate chips and the walnuts are evenly distributed throughout your cake batter. Line your cupcake cases. Now I have always preferred using these silicone cases instead of metal cupcake trays. I find them easier to manage, easier to clean, and easier to store. It takes up far less space than the trays do. Once you have lined each of the cupcake cases, spoon the batter into each cake. Fill this about 3/4 way and not all the way to the top. These will rise as they bake, and if you overfill them, they will overflow as they bake. This batter actually makes about 15 cupcakes, but I only had 12 cases, so I baked it in 2 batches. It's fine to keep the batter sitting around until your first batch bakes and then refill the cupcakes and pop it into the oven. It won't do anything to the texture of the cupcakes. Once your cupcakes are filled, top each of them with a few more chocolate chips and then pop this in a preheated oven and bake for about 20 to 25 minutes. When you touch the cupcakes, they should be firm, and then take it out of the oven and let it cool down. In the meantime, let's make some browned butter icing. A normal butter icing would work fine for this as well, but brown butter icing has this nuttiness about it that works well with the cinnamony, banana-y, chocolatey cupcakes. Melt the butter over a medium heat until it starts to foam, and then the milk solids separate out. Then it will start to toast and become brown, and the liquid will get this golden brown color. At this point, stop heating the butter, pour it into a bowl with the milk solids and all, and then pop this into the freezer to solidify again. Once the butter becomes solid, then pop it into the bowl of your stand mixer along with the icing sugar. And then mix this on a low speed until the icing starts to come together. Once it's mixed through, pour in a few tablespoons of milk and beat that into the icing. This gives your icing a smoother, creamier consistency, which makes it so much easier to pipe onto the cupcakes. By this time, your banana cupcakes should be done cooling. So let's pipe these with the brown butter icing. Get yourself a large star nozzle and a large piping bag. Pop the nozzle into the bag and then cut the edge of the piping bag so that the nozzle fits. You want the spikes of the nozzle to be out of the bag and the rest of the nozzle to be inside. And then fold the piping bag over your wrist like this and then spoon in the icing until it's about just over halfway full. Pull the sides of the piping bag and then twist the top together to really seal in all the icing without any air pockets. And then you're ready to pipe the icing. Line up your banana cupcakes and now watch closely to see how to pipe these beautiful rose-like swirls onto your cupcakes. Hold the piping bag at a 90-degree angle against the cupcake. Place the tip on the center of the cupcake, but don't press down against the cupcake. Just hold it lightly on top. Squeeze the piping bag gently with your dominant hand, which in my case is the right hand, and use the left hand to support and steady your right hand. While squeezing, swirl your hand anti-clockwise from the center of the cupcake outwards until you form almost a circle and a half. Now, all that's left to do is to bite into these soft, delicious banana chocolate chip cupcakes and enjoy. These were so soft with pockets of chocolate chips and chunks of walnut that rippled through it. And the nuttiness that comes from the brown butter icing really went well with the hint of cinnamon you get from the cupcake. Yum! Hope these tips were helpful. Don't forget to subscribe to Arubakes so that you don't miss out on any of these. Bye!